The dead period is here for the Dallas Cowboys, but there are still major storylines to follow during the next 6 weeks and the preseason. So tonight we'll talk about 5 predictions that will come true before the NFL season kicks off. Let's get to it. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central, and catching up with the guys in between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with quick hitting videos. Welcome, everyone, into the show. Hope that you're having a fantastic weekend. Hope that you are, to all of the fathers out there, hope that you guys had a fantastic Father's Day. Hope that you were having a great Sunday, man. Let's talk some Cowboys football for the next few minutes here on the show. It's the dead period era of the show, man, and we're just gonna have some fun over the next few weeks, talking some storylines to follow, some news, right? And we'll get into a report, by the way, when we get to one of these predictions about Dak Prescott's negotiations with the Cowboys. I thought Jeremy Fowler said something very interesting the other day on ESPN. Well, actually, it happened today. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into some Cowboys stories, and we'll have fun with this prediction show because I have 5 of them. I published my article on ATZsports.com, and I thought it would make for a good episode of the live show here on Primetime. But first, let me say hi. We've got Katharina. We have Joe Gonzalez. Shout out to everyone. We've got Toxic Tom as well. Thanks so much. And Toxic, by the way, says Feliz Dia del Padre. Feliz Dia del Padre to everyone who is a father or who is celebrating with their dads and everything. So let's get to it, man. Prediction number 1. And you can tell me in the chat. In fact, I need you to tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong with each of these predictions. So prediction number 1 is Dak Prescott gets extended for over $60 million per year before the start of the 2024 NFL regular season. Let me know in the chat if I'm right or I'm wrong. Let me know in the chat, what do you make of that? Here is my stance on this. And actually, let me start with the Jeremy Fowler report that dropped today. Jeremy Fowler was talking quarterbacks in general throughout the NFL with the deals and everything. And I thought he dropped a major nugget on ESPN today, because I'll read you the quote exactly. He said, "My understanding is that the Cowboys will prioritize Prescott. They want to pay him. Here's a key part, though, and probably want to pay him first before all of their other stars like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons." I thought that part was interesting because, man, I feel like throughout this entire process, we've had a lot of doubt as to whether or not the Cowboys will be able to get this done, right? And the reason is obvious. Toxic actually says, hey, the prediction is wrong. And he mentions the FA leverage, right? The fact that Dak has that golden ticket for 2025 free agency, and the fact that the Cowboys cannot keep him from cashing it in if he wishes to cash it in. So with that in mind, at least in my perception, I've spent all of this offseason thinking, the Dak deal might not get done. But the CeeDee Lamb deal is likely going to get done at some point. And then there's a holdout aspect to it. He's not going to show up for training camp if there's no deal in place yet. I would assume he's going to be a late show. But to hear Jeremy Fowler say, hey, they might pay Dak, or they're trying to pay Dak before they pay CeeDee, I feel like that's significant. I feel like that is a tangible report that kind of shows that they're gonna make it happen. And they're late on the deal, all of that, right? And it might not happen still. I don't think this report changes the fact that Dak has so much leverage and he can use it. And if he does want to use it, it might be a long negotiating process that goes into 2025. But what I'm trying to say is that every update with the Dak Prescott saga so far has been so non-news or non-developing, because all we hear is that there's no negotiations yet, at least not formally. There's no offer made yet to the quarterback. And we're hearing from the Cowboys directly that they are in no rush. Dak also appears to be in no rush because he knows the cards that he's holding. And to hear Jeremy Fowler be like, they're trying to get it done before CeeDee, at least to me, felt like a major nugget and a little bit of a tangible update, if you will, about the Cowboys' intentions. I considered it a major nugget, honestly, that it was dropped there by Mr. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. But anyways, the prediction, Cowboys get it done before the start of the season. I understand the whole thing about Dak Prescott having so much leverage. We've discussed it at length here on Primetime. I ultimately believe the Cowboys will sign that check and that they will keep Dak Prescott, and I think it will happen before the season. Because if it doesn't happen before the season, that feels like the non-official deadline for the whole thing. Now, moving on to prediction number 2. And before I do have some comments here, Rex says I should be applying for a new job, but I am here instead. Well, Rex, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I appreciate you being here listening to Primetime, sir. Thank you so much for tuning in. Catherine says, I knew they would. I just don't understand how a billionaire has no money. That's a freaking joke, says Catherine. Oh, they have the money, right? It's likely more of a, do they want to use it, and in what do they want to use it? But anyways, prediction number 2, ladies and gentlemen, for the Cowboys that will come true before the season kicks off. Stephon Gilmore not brought back to the Cowboys. That is my prediction. Did the camera freeze or something? Just want to make sure very quickly if you guys can give me a thumbs up in the comments, because my software is kind of like messed up right now. Hope that everything is working well so far. Let me try something. Yeah, are we here? All right. Okay, I see the comments saying that yes. All right. Okay, that's good. I'm not seeing myself like on the software. That's weird. Okay. Okay. Feels like we're on right now. Sound, no picture though. Man. Okay. So the audio is okay, but that is so weird, man. All right, we'll try to do our best here as I try to figure this out. I don't want to exit the studio or anything like that. All right, give me a sec very quickly. Let's see if we can fix this. This is the life of a live streamer, right? I don't know why there's no audio. There's no video. It doesn't make sense. We can do it radio style, as Rex says. Let's do this old school radio style. I'll keep talking while I try to figure these out. But prediction number 2 is I don't see Stephon Gilmore being brought back to the Cowboys. And I don't see it happening because I believe we have not seen the Cowboys do anything to suggest that they will spend the money that it will likely. Hey, man, this is another camera. It wasn't supposed to be this camera. Let's see if we can fix it from here. You're getting a behind the scenes shot right there. There you go. Like my parents trying to use Zoom, just toxic, and that is accurate. All right, but we're back though. Figured it out. Stephon Gilmore, I talked about this with Skywalker Steel last Thursday night, and if you did not catch that show, please do, because, man, it was a banger. Sky always brings it, and it was so fun to chop it up with him for about an hour, and we talked Cowboys football. And one of the things that we talked about is what have the Cowboys done to suggest that they will go out there and spend $8 to $10 million for Stephon Gilmore, which is what I believe he will be going for. And he's obviously taking his time. He's a veteran, so he might be into the whole idea of, hey, I'll just show up for a training camp and that kind of stuff. I also don't think he was ever going to be like super expensive for the team that signs him. So I think he's playing it smart. I do think there will be interest from multiple teams for Stephon Gilmore. And when he signs with an NFL team, it's likely going to be somewhere around the $8 to $10 million mark. The Cowboys have spent around $3 million, right? When they signed Eric Kendricks, when they signed Ezekiel Elliott, they brought Royce Freeman in a very minimum deal. They have not made a big signing that suggests to me that they will be spending the money on Stephon Gilmore. And here's the thing. You kind of don't need Stephon Gilmore. Would the Cowboys be much better with him on the roster? Hell yeah, because specifically the depth would be better, right? You would have Jordan Lewis on the bench, which is what happened last year, right? That was the idea going into the season. Daron Bland on manning the nickel job, and then you'd have Trevon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore on the outside, which was the overpower defensive backfield that you were supposed to have in 2023. But now the Cowboys have talked about doing more with less. They have talked about, a financial reset. So if they needed a cornerback, I could see them bringing in Stephon Gilmore. But I'm pretty firm on this one. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. I don't think Gilmore comes back to the Cowboys. I think they're happy with what they've got. 2 all-pro corners at the end of the day, right? Bland and Trevon Diggs. And I think they're going to bet on Diggs being healthy by the time the season gets going, whether that is a smart bet or not. It might be because, it was early when Trevon Diggs suffered his season-ending injury. So I don't view Stephon Gilmore coming back. I believe he will sign with somebody else. So that's prediction number 2. Things could change, to be honest. Things could change, but we'll see. Toxic says, no, it's Joey Vela. He says, no, they don't. That's why they brought in this cornerback from the UFL. They are working out Gary Conley. They are working out the Andrew Baker. So we'll see what that ends up, where all of that ends up. But prediction number 3, though, Cowboys trade for a defensive tackle. Now, notice the big difference here. I just laid out why the Cowboys don't need Stephon Gilmore. They would be much better with him. They don't need that cornerback. They absolutely need a defensive tackle. Sky and I talked about this on Thursday. It is one of the worst position groups in the entire NFL. I think that if you looked at the worst units, team by team, Cowboys defensive tackle room would be up there in that list. And the thing is, there's no one in free agency that is gonna move the needle. There's just nobody at this stage. If you're gonna improve the defensive tackle room, if you're gonna add size to the room and experience, you're gonna have to do it via a trade. And it could be a big name like Jonathan Allen, which is like our pipe dream, right? Everyone would love to have Jonathan Allen on the team, and we would feel much better about the Cowboys' defensive line. But there's other options out there as well. I know Sky mentioned some potential trade candidates, right? He mentioned David Gacho from the Patriots, BJ Hill from the Bengals. There are options in the trade market, but it's not going to be something that you solve through free agency. And Toxic says, God, please, no trades. We are dog shit at trading for the most part. I would disagree slightly there, because do I wish the Cowboys were better at pulling off trades? Yep, I would. But the 2 biggest additions to the team last year were via trades, and they were quality additions. Stephon Gilmore was a quality addition. Brandon Cooks was as well. So Cowboys trading for a defensive tackle is much better than going into the 2025 season with a group that you have. There's Ozo Odighizuwa, he's fine, kind of light at 3 technique, and I would like to have like a, bigger bodies in the rotation, though. Oza is fine, however. Masi Smith, we don't know anything about him, and the tough reality is the Cowboys neither. The Cowboys are going to show up how this version of Masi Smith looks like in the practice field when training camp starts. They didn't figure out any of that in OTAs, in minicamp, when there's no contact allowed, when they're not wearing pads. But Masi did not play at the weight that he was supposed to play as a rookie. So whatever they learned from Masi in 2023 is very limited when you're trying to project what he will be in 2024, because he's going to be playing at a different weight and all that. So Cowboys got to trade for a defensive tackle. The need is so huge that I'm confident putting this in the prediction list for today. It's the most ambitious one, though. It's the most difficult one to get right, I believe, by the time the offseason is over. But anyways, I do think it happens. I do think they try to help Mike Zimmer out with that specific addition, and we'll see if they make it work or not. But moving on to not trade number 4, prediction number 4. I think Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb's hold out with a Justin Jefferson deal. So as bad as the offseason has been, as bad as I think their approach to free agency has been and the contracts and all that, in my predictions, I am including both Dak Prescott and CeeDee getting their contracts done. And I'm going to add something. I think it will be done relatively early in training camp. The Cowboys like to do that, whether it's right or wrong. When training camp comes around and the players are there, the negotiations can be sped up just a little bit. And I believe that it will end up happening for these two players. I believe CeeDee gets a copy-paste version of Justin Jefferson's deal. When the numbers come out, my suggestion would be to not get carried away by the average per year, because it's going to be pretty much next to Jefferson's. It might be 35 million as well. It might be a 35.5 or something like 34.5. None of that will matter. What will matter will be the details, because we talked about this when the Justin Jefferson news dropped. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, all of them were, in average, 30 million receivers, 30 million per year receivers. But when you looked at the numbers, that value was very inflated because of the values of the final years of the contracts, which are not going to stay the same when they get to that stage. However, Justin Jefferson's deal is completely different. Justin Jefferson is going to get the money that is on his deal. He is going to be a legitimate 35 million per year wide receiver. And my question with the CeeDee Lamb contract comes out is it exactly like that? Are the is the guaranteed money at the same level as Jefferson's is, where there was that great analysis comparing his deal to wide receivers? And it's more similar to Nick Bosa's deal with the San Francisco 49ers, Justin Jefferson. So does CeeDee Lamb follow that same path? I think he will. And I think it will be a copy-paste version of the contract, but it will be for CeeDee Lamb, right? And Toxic says it here, guaranteed money is really all that matters. And I agree. And then you go a step further and you look at the cash flows as well. Okay, year one, how much money is going into that player's account? Because sometimes they're very, backloaded and they don't even get that money until much later. But it's different to get that in year one of the deal, which is a huge part also of Justin Jefferson's deal. So I agree with that 100%. Brian says, I think maybe telling us what we want to hear, and he'll test free agency for the most money ever, says Brian. Oh, Dak. Oh, I think maybe Dak is telling us what we want to hear, and he'll test free agency for the most money ever. Hey, it's huge leverage. So it is. I saw, and shout out to Danny Phantom. I really like what he does, but he did have a tweet that I disagreed with, and we've had good discussions in the past, I think, on Twitter. And he does, great work covering the Cowboys. And he had a tweet out that argued that the Cowboys were not waiting too much. Like they were not waiting too long, not in a negative way, at least. It's a fair point. I disagree with it in the sense that everyone, and, we talked about what Adam Schefter said the other day. The Cowboys let Dak Prescott have this much leverage. So I do think they waited too long. And I think we underestimate just how unprecedented this territory is in the NFL right now, the situation that Dak Prescott finds himself in. Because Brian might be onto something just because Dak has the opportunity to do something a lot of quarterbacks have never tried to do, right? Everyone is signing their deals early for a lot of reasons. And I think players are players, man. I think players want to play at the end of the day, and they don't really enjoy the contract negotiation aspect of it. But if the Cowboys are passive in their way of doing things, Dak is also like, okay, I'll just play it cool too, and I'll bet on myself. That's what Dak has always done. And I do think the Cowboys waited too long in the sense of they're allowing him to hold this leverage and allowing him to have that temptation of going into free agency in 2025, even if the right offer comes through, right? Dak might be in a situation where that offer comes through, it makes sense, but he's like, hey, what if I mess around and test free agency? That would be a possibility, in my opinion. But anyways, that's prediction number 4 for me. Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb get it done. Prediction number 5, and this is one that will come true a little bit later than the offseason training camp period. This is more of a preseason prediction. Trey Lance gets 100% of the snaps for at least one preseason game, and I think it has the potential to be much more. Lance has thrown 102 passes in his NFL career in the regular season. He needs reps. Mike McCarthy has gone out there and he said, hey, our preseason plan is to have Trey Lance play a lot. We don't know what a lot means exactly, but if you are the Cowboys, what are you trying to learn about Cooper Rush? Cooper Rush is who he is. Cooper Rush is what? 31 years old, 30 years old. He'll be 31 in November. He is what he is. There is no upside there. The value of Cooper Rush is that he knows the system, he knows the scheme, he knows the players, and he's had some moments where, hey, he doesn't turn the ball over, and the Cowboys, can bet on winning with their defense if Dak ever goes down or something like that. But you're not going to learn anything new from Cooper Rush. You got to learn everything about Trey Lance. And I think it would be smart for the Cowboys to get him out there and test him with the first team, the second team, the third team, put him in uncomfortable situations, just get him the reps. And by the way, it would be super fun for us. Like, man, if you give Trey Lance 4 quarters of football in the preseason, I think those are going to be games that a lot of people will want to watch. Like, even non-Cowboys fans will want to tune in to see Trey Lance play because he's not any other quarterback, right? Like, he's a former number 3 overall pick that people are wondering about because we have not seen enough from him. And there's an argument to be made that, there's been this conversation going around on Twitter over the last few days where people are like, are we sure Trey Lance is bad? And the reality is, no, we cannot be sure because we haven't seen him play. And I think it was Wendell Ferreira, shout out to him from A to Z Sports, who tweeted out like, we are judging Trey Lance based off Kyle Shanahan's opinion of Trey Lance. And that might not be entirely fair, right, for the former 49ers quarterback. So we want to watch him. I think the Cowboys would be smart to get him a 100% snap count in the 3 preseason games. Let's do it. I do think they do it for at least one game. And Guru brings up an interesting point because he says Trey Lance will get most, if not all, the snaps in the preseason. Who will play to support him? Cooks, Ferguson, Turpin, and how long will they be kept in the preseason game? This is a fantastic point because I wrote about this when Mike McCarthy first said that they were going to go crazy with Trey Lance in the preseason. I think that alters your game plan a little bit for the preseason because the Cowboys under Mike McCarthy have been very conservative in how they use their starters in the preseason. Last year, for example, none of the starting offensive linemen saw any work. Not even Tyler Smith in his second year in the league, gearing up to play left guard. He didn't take the field in the preseason last year. I would think that Zach Martin is not going to play. I would think that Terrence Hill is not going to play. I don't think that Tyler Smith is going to play. But you do have 2 rookies that are likely going to be starting, so they will likely be on the field, right? I think Tyler Guyton will be playing at left tackle. Cooper Beebe will be playing at center because they also need the reps. And you do have a quality backup offensive line, right? Because who else is going to be involved? TJ Voss? Is it going to be maybe like Matt Waletsko at tackle, at right tackle? There are some guys, right? I don't know how they will use Asim Richards. So mostly, I think Trey Lance will get an opportunity to play behind a relatively good offensive line for a preseason football game. The question is the playmakers, because I don't think you will see the playmakers. I think you will see a lot of Jalen Brooks. We might see some Jalen Tolbert in there. I don't think we'll see Jake Ferguson. I don't, even though he likely wants to play the game. Um, but it has to impact how you approach things. If you're the Cowboys and you want to play a lot of Trey Lance and you want to evaluate him, you likely want to toss him out there with a quality supporting cast around him. So it's a great point right there from Guru, I would say. Brian Thompson says Trey Lance wasn't great, but wasn't bad either. They need to figure him out. Yeah. Yep. I agree with Brian right there. There were some rough moments on tape. There were some moments where he just was not getting the reads right, or where he had like this window open and he missed the throw because he missed the read and through to the outside shoulder instead of the inside shoulder, that kind of stuff. There were some pretty ugly moments of that in Trey Lance's tape, but there's also some highlights that he's had where you're like, okay, this is what we were all talking about when he was a draft prospect. And people forget that even though the 49ers, maybe they traded too much to go up and get Trey Lance, the 49ers were not the only team that perceived Trey Lance as the top talent in the draft. There were, he was going to go in the first round, no matter what. I'm intrigued about Trey Lance, I'll admit. Not in the he'll take over for Dak Prescott kind of way, but I am intrigued and I'm excited to seeing how all of that plays out. Troy says facts. That is the reason coaches look at players' stats different than fans. And that might be all about Trey Lance right there. Toxic says, I remember when fans were anointing other Cowboys legends like Drew Henson, Quincy Carter, and Chad Hutchinson, even before they took a snap. And it happens. It's in sports and in football specifically, for Cowboys fans at least. New is always better in the eyes of fans, and that is never exactly right? Like everyone is excited about somebody else always, right? Because the logic for a lot of fans is if the Cowboys have not won with the guy that quarterbacks them today, they might win it with the next one. But if you use that logic, then it kind of ignores the fact that 49ers are doing what they're doing with Brock Purdy at a quarterback, and he isn't doing anything too special. Is he reliable? Yeah. Is he savvy? Yeah. Is he underrated a little bit? I would say so, because I do think Brock Purdy is much more than just a game manager, as people like to call him and all that. But he's an inferior quarterback to Dak Prescott, for example, and you still get beaten by the 49ers. So it's a bad logic, I would say. This is a good point from Troy, too. The Cowboys have a solid rotation of pass catchers, I think, right? Like we'll see him with Jalen Brooks, David Durden, and there's Ryan Flournoy, Jalen Moreno-Cropper, who has been said to have strong moments in practice this year and last year specifically, I would say. He's going to get to play with John Stephens Jr. at tight end. Notice I didn't say Luke Schoonmaker. He's going to get to play with Brevin Spanford. So Preseason is low-key going to be very fun. I mean, you have a quarterback to watch, and that is always pretty exciting. So those are my 5 predictions, ladies and gentlemen. Just to recap, though, very quickly. Prediction number 1, Dak gets extended for over $60 million per year, and it happens in training camp. Stephon Gilmore is not brought back, but the Cowboys do trade for a defensive tackle. That's number 3. Number 4, Cowboys end CeeDee's holdout with a contract that is basically a Justin Jefferson copy-paste deal. And number 5, Trey Lance, preseason star, takes over every snap or at least one game, and we'll see. You know what I'm really intrigued by? Just a quick parenthesis here. How do they split the reps in joint practice with the LA Rams? I'm intrigued about that because we've heard coaches be like, with joint practices, you see what you want to see from the starters. Does Trey Lance get some looks with the first team in that kind of scenarios? I would like to see that as well. Trey Not in. I don't want the Cowboys to really feed the whole conversation about Lance potentially replacing Dak Prescott, but I think that would be an interesting development if they let Trey Lance play a lot with the first team during training camp because they want to get better looks at him surrounded with NFL starting caliber talent. I think that would be cool. I think that would be cool, and I think it would be a better way of going through Trey's evaluation. But we won't care too much about that. What we will really care about will be all about the preseason games because that's what we'll actually get to see from a closer point of view. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button for me. Hope that you enjoyed the show. Hope that you guys are having a fantastic Sunday night. Happy Father's Day to everyone who is a father and watches Primetime. And to everyone, just one quick comment that I would like to make. Reach out if you haven't, right, to your dad and make the most out of your time with them. And I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you very soon. Toxic, you're gonna make me cry, man. If you keep dropping those comments, nah, man, I appreciate you. You know that, man. You absolutely know that. And thank you so much. Hit the like button, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye bye.